Brooklyn Independent Television.
We're back here at Starret City Boxing in Starret City, our boxing club. And I have two distinguished boxing trainers, one who talked me into saying, you know what, you guys come to this gym, you guys don't talk to us. So he talked himself into a fight. First I have trainer, your name?
Nimral Lorick.
Kenneth Woods.
Kenneth Woods, the one who talked me into it. All right. Gentlemen, where is boxing these days?
Good, Nimral, you.
Boxing is a unique sport, and it's like people look at where boxing is. Boxing is the point of like survival, you know what I mean? It's kids always here, but there's a mainstream of boxing. Boxing is not always going to be what people think is going to be a killer, Mike Tyson, not every day, or Sugar Ray Leonard that's created in New York. It's like basketball. The world is getting better. It's not New York City no more, just like the Olympics, anything else. But New York City is striving for boxing. We have a lot of great athletes. It's just that some of these kids don't get, notarized around the country, around the world, like some other, in other states. New York is such a competitive state that everybody's trying to do their own, instead of us spreading our wings and working together and trying to create maybe the 5 or 10 best amateurs they have in the country. At one point we had it at Starret, for a good 10 years, where we had like the top amateurs that turned professional. You start from Shannon Briggs, who was a U.S. champion, Monty Barrett, Louis Collazo, Travis Sims, all these guys who created, Will Rosinski, Danny Jacobs, Saddam Ali, they all was created here.
Starret City's been around since 1978. Is boxing dead, Kenneth?
It's on life support right now. For some reason, people are just not interested in watching the fights. Before, they used to come on twice a week, the Thursday night fights, the Tuesday night fights. Now, everything is pay-per-view and HBO and, Showtime and stuff, where the interest just isn't there. And I don't know, since Tyson left, the interest has died with it.
It seems like every generation, Joe Louis represented a particular generation. Muhammad Ali represented a particular generation also, and Mike Tyson. We don't have that personality, is that it? Because boxing was somewhat personality driven also.
I think like Kenny said, like a lot of, I don't think it's personality so much. I think it's a TV station. Like right now, boxing is coming back on Channel 4 with main events, so that create a little buzz. Not everybody has cable. Not everybody is gonna pay, they could afford the cable. So bringing back boxing to like Channel 4 and Channel 7 and the local channels is gonna create a buzz for people to start looking again. We have all these ice skating and all that on ESPN. I think for some reason people think boxing is a brutal sport. It's really not a brutal sport. I think the world is brutal, you know what I mean? People like that, but they won't come out and say it. They're always trying to ban boxing or boxing ain't good. I mean, it's a lot of sport that's, competitive and a lot of contact.
But from right now, the youngsters are not interested in boxing anymore. They're mostly trying to play football, basketball, and also mixed martial arts is on the rise. And you have a lot of options now. You don't have to play sports anymore.
It's true, but boxing is still a unique sport. It's a one-on-one where you're going for 10 rounds or 12 rounds. Mixed martial arts it's an exciting sport. I look at it, but it's like boxing. It's like the athletes are not making the money. The promoters are making the money. Just like it was down in boxing 10, 20 years ago by Don King and this one. Boxing, mixed martial arts is at that stage. 1% of the fighters are making maybe over $100,000. These guys are going in there killing each other with 6-ounce gloves and really brutalizing each other.
So why does it appeal to youngsters?
Because, again, the world and people like brutality. We just don't want to say it. We all have this killer instinct in all of us. If somebody push you too hard, eventually you're going to push back. People think we can calm that down. It's like boys being boys. When we growing up, boys are jumping off the couch, they say, no, calm them down. As soon as you get a hyper kid, it's like put him on medication. And I think there's other ways to help these kids grow. And the computer age also kills a lot of kids because they're not out here bleeding sports.
And now you can also you have the option also maybe to become an entertainer too.
Of course. Well, entertainment is something that we all want to be in, but it's like wrestling. I love wrestling, although it's 80% fake. But these guys are huge athletes who are jumping off ropes.
So, where are the fighters now? Are they coming out of New York City? Are they coming out of Ohio? Are they coming out of Philadelphia? Because Philadelphia used to be, used to have Bernie Briscoe,
Fight town, yeah.
Joe Frazier, You used to have those
Willie
type of fighters.
Monroe, Cyclone
Right.
Hart, Boogaloo Watts, and
Well, like-
Stanley Kitten Haywood, and so on and so forth. A lot of great fighters. Joey Giardello come out of Philadelphia.
Right. So you used to have that thing, a Philadelphia fighter. I mean, where are the fighters now?
Well, you know, the world is getting better. You got Manny Pacquiao from the Philippines. You know what I'm saying? You got all these guys like Mexican fighters now. You got Puerto Rican fighters. You got guys from Africa. You know, like Ike Ibuchi. We thought he was going to be the next great heavyweight.
man.
He
Oh.
was. I mean, little things.
What a
Darrell never went
waste.
to, jail for certain things that maybe he didn't even do. But these are the aspects of life, that we all deal with. But I think it's such a great sport to be in boxing. I've been in boxing since I was 11 years old. So is Kenny. We've been around each other.
Tell
for
us
a long
about
time.
your boxing background.
Well, I started boxing when I was 11, like 36 years, 35 years ago. I've been in boxing. I started in Starret City. I was the first student here and also became a trainer in 92. And I fought in the Olympics in 1984 in Trinidad. I fought in the Golden Glove finals in New York. And I trained 2 world champions, Luis Collazo and Travis Sims. And a whole lot of other fighters, Monty Barrett, Vinnie Madelone, Jadon Codrington, who fought in the contender final in the Sugar Ray Leonard tournament they had. So, I've been exposed to a lot in boxing and in human nature. And these kids, sometimes they just need a support system. And I think that's why like guys like me and Kenny exist in the gym. Sometimes it's your heart. You put a lot out.
We're back here at Starret City Boxing Gym for the last part of our conversation with boxing trainers Nimral Lorick and Kenneth Woods. Kenneth, in our last conversation, we went over Nimral's background, but we want to talk about your background in boxing.
I started boxing when I was 11, 12 years old, started going to the gym. I had my first amateur fight in 1973 on one of the smoker shows when they were still running smoker shows at that time. From there, I fought in the Golden Glove in 75. I did real well, went to the semifinals, did again. Also won the Empire State Games in 1980 and 81. I won gold medals upstate in Syracuse. I was sparred with 8 world champions, and I trained 4. Iran Barker, Buddy McGirt, Louis Santana, and Aaron Davis. I worked with them all. And I came to Starret City. I started training boxing. I'm also an amateur referee and judge, but I came to Starret City a few years ago. Jimmy O called me up and been here ever since. It's been good.
The heavyweight division, shot?
I don't think so. I think the heavyweight division is the Klitschko brothers. At any point in boxing, they had a dominant 1-2. So happened to be is the Klitschko brothers. And I think we are being robbed from boxing because these guys are not fighting in the United States. They're overseas, and they're doing their own thing. They're making their money. The public is over here in America is not getting really to see them. And I think this is killing boxing a little bit. When Tyson was there, he was the dominant one. These guys are dominant right now.
So the power is basically switched.
Exactly.
So whoever has the gold moves, right?
There you go. And then not also that. Like we said, the world is getting better at boxing. Not only America no more, or the small countries. The smaller countries are getting better. Where the athletes are getting bigger, they're getting better, and they're competitive now. America is still we haven't found that nurturing spot of boxing or parents being involved in where their kids are. So I think that's where Starret
So
City is.
do you ever think that the heavyweight division will come back
I think so.
Eventually.
here in America?
Eventually. Right now, as so goes the heavyweight division, so goes boxing in America. That's why the sport is so down. During the 70s, when you had Ali, Frazier, Foreman, Kenny Norton, Jerry Quarry, Ronnie Lyle,
Jimmy Young,
and so on and so forth, the division was packed with either one of those guys could have been a champion at one point or another. So it was competitive, and they all fought each other. It's not like they avoided. Like nowadays, guys will avoid other
So
guys.
that's the politics of it. isn't it, right?
Yeah. You had Aram and King that were the 2 top guys. Now you have DeBella. You have who are the other guys here now?
Golden Boy. There's a lot more promoters now than they had
The
back
boxers
then.
are getting into the promoting game, which is good.
Yes.
Is it?
But
And they're doing their own production companies themselves now. De La Hoya started Golden Boy. Mayweather has his promotions. Shane Mosley has his, and so on and so forth. So, boxers are becoming more businessmen as well as just boxers.
Now, what about here, Starret City? I see a lot of youngsters back here, so it can't be completely finished. I see a lot of youngsters here boxing. Women, men, teenagers, teenage boys, teenage girls.
Of course, we have a young heavyweight back here. You know, he's coming up. He's 15 years old. He's 16 now. He's going to be 17. We have a light heavyweight here. You know, we having a little span of like change, but it's a lot of like putting together. You know, and I think guys like Kenny is being one of the coaches, and I'm coming back and trying to help the program to be built where we had it at one time. But I need help from guys like this. You know, Kwani. You know, Andre, who's a big input. You know, we have a lot of concerned parents and a lot of concerned trainers here who want to see the program pick back up. And as you see, we have a lot of young girls back here. So it's something to dwell on. You know what I mean? Not only is it's a boxing gym, it's a health thing. You know, if kids could get off the street and just come down here and, whatever. If it's not a cost to anybody, if it's not, whatever we have to do to make it work for a kid, we will. You know, and guys like Kenny himself, who's like here most of the day, I work full time, and I'm here between 5 and 8, 9 sometimes. We stay until 10 o'clock at times. You know, whatever time it is for these kids to get off the street, and that's what the program was built on in 1977, 78, when we first came here. You know, I used to travel 2.5 hours just to get to the gym. But that's, me and Jimmy had a bond, and we started something from an age of 11, and we carried it over till he passed on. And I'm proud to be part of Starret City.
Starret City is growing. We're going to get back to where we were. But just at times you have peaks and you have valleys. And you have to take the bitter along with the sweet. You know, right now we're in a resurgence area now. The top guys that we had before are pretty much gone now. They're doing their own thing. We have to develop young talent from here. And the kids are responding. They're doing pretty good now.
Now, what about as far as boxing clubs? What are some of the other boxing gyms? I know you want to talk about Starret City. We know about Gleason's, but there used to be many clubs, several clubs years ago.
Those are coming back. You have from the PL, it went to Cops and Kids. They're making strides in areas where people are like, where kids don't have a place to go to. That's why gyms like Starret and Cops and Kids exist. So these are the clubs that people could go to. There's Universal in Queens, and these are the clubs that really help the kids, nurture the kids. Because nobody's looking at the end of the day to get rich off it. You don't get rich off of boxing unless you are the number 1 or 2 trainers in the world. You got the top fighters, where boxing is only like 3%. Imagine 3% of the world is making money.
Real quick, the injury problem. They said as far as the brain injuries. You look at Muhammad Ali, everyone said, look at this one, that one, Leon Spinks, Kenny Norton.
Howard Cosell inherited the same thing that Ali had. He didn't fight. He was just a commentator unless he talked to him. And, it can happen to anybody.
Kenny Norton got his injury from a car accident, not from boxing.
Football players, paralyzed. We talk about all these sports. You look at the specials they have on football, hockey. These guys are getting concussion, every day. Some of them have 10, 12, and they're just doing a study right now.
But do you think it's because of as far as football, maybe hockey is under the guise of education, so therefore if you have the NCAA involved, it's a little bit more sanitized?
Yeah.
A doctor's a doctor. Come on, no matter what field, he still has to pass the medical. Okay, so a doctor's a doctor. Doesn't matter the sport. That's not relevant. What happens is injuries do occur in other sports as well as boxing.
Future boxing, real quick.
I think boxing is always going to exist. It's going to have a great existence until maybe we carry on, and it's always been a mad sport. You know what I mean? So people are going to love it. Kids are going to love it, and it's going to exist for the rest of a lifetime.
On the rise. Keep your eye on Starret City. We're coming back.
Well, folks,
thank you.
And that's a wrap up for us here on In the Zone from Starret City Boxing Gym. I'm Michael Bellamy. Take care. Have a safe week. Bye-bye.
Watch this and other Brooklyn Independent Television episodes online at breakartsmedia.org/BIT.